From prehistoric time to today, man's progress has been marked by his ability to fashion tools and use them to his advantage. From early humans making tools from stone, man evolved and was soon trading with other men. Money evolved, and tools such as the abacus to handle complex money transactions were developed. By the end of the 19th century, machines such as the cash register began to appear. 100 years later, we have even better computer-driven machines which track stock, change prices, and automatically reorder. Meanwhile, the reinsurance industry has failed to embrace man's drive for progress. The reinsurance industry today would be as familiar to practitioners from the 1800s as it is to modern underwriters. An underwriter or broker from 1800 would settle nicely into today's business. That is, until now. For the reinsurance industry, pivot point changes everything. Soon it will be understood that the period before pivot point was as dark as the caveman period was before the abacus. Come and see for yourself if you don't know. After a demonstration, you will understand what is possible.
There's been some very snowy weather in Italy today. The two main Milan airports, Malpensa and Linate, have been closed for much of the morning as a result of heavy snow. They opened about 2 hours ago. A total of about 50 flights were canceled. There was approximately a foot of snow in both Milano and Turin. The other airport that was affected was Bergamo, which is up in the north as well. The Royal Gazette in Bermuda is reporting something interesting this morning. They're saying that XL Capital and American International Group are looking to sublet part of their offices. According to the Royal Gazette, Coldwell Banker Bermuda Realty's commercial representative told the newspaper that the agent had been instructed by XL to market its North Tower, an XL house on Bermudiana Road, to prospective tenants. AIG has apparently requested the same for a space on its ground floor at the AIG building in Richmond Road. ACE, the paper notes, is not planning to sublet any part of its global headquarters on Woodbourne Avenue. Bermuda law generally does not permit companies to do business inside Bermuda who are international companies such as AIG and XL, but the law does allow for them to be given permission to rent out their real estate. That renting out of real estate would classify as doing business in Bermuda. Apparently, according to the newspaper, they say that as far as XL, AIG, and ACE are concerned, the relevant consents for them to lease out their offices at any time are already executed and transparent and in the public files. Real estate agents say that XL and AIG had asked Coldwell Banker to find them paying tenants. Quote, the fellow from Coldwell Banker said, "I have been instructed by XL to market the North Tower and from AIG to market a tiny little space on the ground floor, which is quite insignificant in the overall size of the building." Neither XL or AIG commented, although one individual said that it should not be taken as too alarming. It just gives the companies freedom to utilize and rent out space that they have. Yesterday in New York, an assistant director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation made a couple of alarming announcements at a news conference. Sean Henry, assistant director of the FBI Cyber Division, said that cyber attacks pose the greatest threat to the U.S. after nuclear war and weapons of mass destruction. He went on to say that from a national security perspective, other than a nuclear weapon or WMD, this is the most destructive threat to our infrastructure. Mr. Henry said that he warns of a cybergeddon in which an advanced economy, where almost everything of import is linked or controlled by computer, falls prey to hackers with catastrophic results. He said that terrorist groups aim for an online version of the 9/11 attacks, quote, inflicting the same kind of damage on our country, on all our countries and all our networks as they did in 2001 by flying airplanes into buildings. He noted that Russian hackers allegedly mounted huge assaults on internet networks in Estonia and Georgia last year, while Palestinian sympathizers frequently orchestrate attacks against hundreds of Israeli websites. An investigator with a group called Global Terror Alert in Washington said that websites and social networking tools that already allow underground Islamist leaders to recruit and communicate with each other in safety worldwide are very, very quickly back on the air in one form or another if they are knocked out by security forces. Experts are indicating that nowadays people can use SIM chips, move money all around the world, and Confederates can withdraw that cash from an ATM in currency of his or her choice. It's extraordinarily difficult for us to catch them. This is an issue that undoubtedly we'll be hearing more about as time goes on. The Israeli attacks on the Gaza Strip have received plenty of news notice. It's up to the World Bank to post something that perhaps people have overlooked. The World Bank, in a study that came out this morning, said that 10,000 people in the Gaza Strip risk drowning in septic waste as Gaza's sewage system is being threatened by the Israeli bombardment, which is affecting the pumps that push the waste. Pumps transferring sewage from large cesspools to filtration basins in northern Gaza are not operating because of a lack of electricity. These pumps are critical to relieve the pressure on a lake called the Beit Laya sewage lake. The lake's walls are also threatened. Failure of the lake structure would put about 10,000 residents in the path of a collapse of the walls and risk drowning in a sea of septic waste. It should be noted that this is not entirely alarmist because in March of last year, 5 Palestinians were killed by a flood of raw sewage when the earthen walls of the cesspool collapsed, the same cesspool that we're discussing right now. In 15 minutes' time, a very unusual luncheon is going to occur at the White House. Here are the attendees. You no doubt recognize them. There's President Jimmy Carter on the upper left. Next to him is Bill Clinton. Under Bill Clinton, to your right, is the current president, George W. Bush. In the center on the lower part is his father, George H.W. Bush, and on the lower left is, of course, President-elect Barack Obama. Apparently, when President-elect Obama met with current President Bush last month, the President-elect himself suggested the idea of a luncheon with the former presidents, and President Bush readily agreed, thinking it was a great idea. The 5 men are meeting now in the White House for lunch. They're alone. There are no other people there, just the waiting staff. And they're discussing things such as what is it like to live in the White House, what is it like to raise children in the White House, how do you handle privacy concerns, and just any other thing that a group of 5 former leaders of the free world are going to discuss. Former presidents are rarely grouped together, usually only when a presidential library is open. One other time that they were seen together was in 1981, when President Reagan summoned former President Carter, former President Ford, and former President, who was the third one that I'm missing? Former President Nixon, and asked them to go to Cairo to attend slain Egyptian leaders Anwar Sadat's funeral. So it's an interesting day. Each of these former presidents has their own security detail. The current president has a massive security detail. President-elect Obama has a massive security detail. So you can be sure of one thing, that the Secret Service staff at the White House has been augmented by a quantum of 4, at least today. It's probably the safest place in the United States. If we have any other breaking news, we'll come back and tell you. If not, thank you for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.